kind of feel like I'm putting my audience in the same somewhat awkward position this movie is putting me in, where there was probably no way it could ever live up to the film it's presented as a chronological sequel to, even though it really isn't that. And also the added extra weight of time and the pandemic delay and the fact that the timing of the vaccine ramp up, this is one of the films being treated as the first movie back to theaters for a lot of people, and in fact was the first one back for me and my brother, in as much as my review of the previous film was kind of a mimetic and widely seen thing from being super way over the top enthusiastic because it hit at just the right moment for me.
It's awesome! So awesome! It's so awesome! So awesome! Yeah! It's so f***ing good! Just see it! It doesn't need a review, it just needs to be seen! Yeah!
And realistically, there was just no way I was ever going to have that same type of response again, and I get that whatever I think of this, the lack of that will make it seem like I'm already down on it, even though I'm not, and that's unfair to the filmmakers who are already having to deal with the unfairness of Warner Brothers making it part of their stupid HBO Max day-and-date streaming dump. I mean, that's out of my hands, though. For what it's worth, I did in fact react extremely positive to the viewing and immediate aftermath of seeing it, and this is how me and my brother looked in that moment.
Monkey. Big monkey. Monkey.
So we saw a big lizard fight a big monkey?
Yeah. If this wasn't my actual job, and I have something like professional integrity to do, I would literally just like turn the microphone on a minute and a half of dead air and just go, monkey.
Actually, if they had recorded you and me watching this movie, that would have been the commentary track, because I think every 5 or 10 minutes, one of us would turn to the other and go, monkey.
Monkey. How many people understand that, like, to a certain number of guys our age, that when we're doing like the, it's like, monkey, that we're technically doing an impression of Dennis Hopper from the terrible Mario Brothers movie?
Right? Of movie here, and not the kind of lot of movie that they did in the 2014 Godzilla. This is a lot of movie with big monsters.
Big monsters.
Big monkey.
Monkey.
Godzilla is there.
Yes, Godzilla.
There's actors.
Hollow Earth.
Are we supposed to say Hollow Earth?
Yeah, we're supposed to say Hollow Earth.
Did they say it in the trailers?
Yes, they do. It's in the trailers, and it was in the last movie. It was the plot of the last movie.
It was the plot of the last movie.
Yeah. What's the aesthetic of this kind of cinematography where one guy is like constantly leaning for no reason because on the screen that he's looking at, his head is obscured by like the pause and rewind button, but on the screen you're not going to see that, so it just looks like I'm leaning this way for no reason?
Bad cinematography?
So it's good, yeah, it's fun. Big action, gets the genre, great effects, fun, innovative spectacle, the monsters are terrific, cool Act 3 twist to things, and above all else, I really want them to keep making as many of these MonsterVerse movies as they can. I had a blast watching it, I recommend you do as well, and if you have the opportunity to do so in a movie theater and you feel personally safe and conduct yourself safely while doing so, it's definitely scaled that way, and the film culture needs all the support that it can get. Is it as good as King of the Monsters? I didn't think so, no. Did I enjoy it as much? No, and definitely not in the same way, but it's also got a different energy that might appeal to some people more so, and there is that. There's definitely aspects and elements to this that simply weren't present in the preceding films, and I certainly liked seeing realized at this scale on this kind of budget. Adam Wingard clearly has a different style and sensibility from Mike Dougherty, and I'm glad to see them both more or less get to do their thing, but since they've presented these in terms of a singular series, I won't deny that what they're treating as the preceding film felt more like a richer, fuller, leave-it-all-on-stage experience, and this is more like an encore, where the band comes back out and does a crowd pleaser with a special guest or two, and that's fun in its own right, but the full-course show is the part that actually ruled and that people remember. Make of that what you will. Anyway, speaking of King of the Monsters, since it has been significantly longer than anyone expected, if you were trying to keep up with the mythology of the so-called MonsterVerse movies, you should probably watch that again or hit up Google, because Kong vs. Godzilla bears all the telltale signs of a studio having said make it shorter several times over the course of production, and apparently the main things worth cutting was anything having to do with what's going on, who anyone from the previous movies are, how they related to each other, or what anyone was ever trying to accomplish that can't be relegated to an opening credits montage of conspiracy news clippings. In fact, it feels like the just keep it to things directly centered on the ape fighting the dinosaur cutting was so close to the bone on this that, while I won't do major spoilers here, I will say that those who are fans and immediately key in on a certain character hanging around because their name and role suggest a direct connection to the previous films and a character arc that therefore must be a compelling story in its own right, yeah, I'd focus my attention elsewhere when that comes up. Like, anywhere else, because the movie certainly does. Again, that probably sounds like more of a negative criticism than the observation of tonal structural unease that I'm more intended as. Taken as its own thing, Godzilla vs. Kong is a pretty damn great at being what it is, perhaps additionally apart from the title being in the wrong order. This is indisputably Kong's movie, regardless of which one of them can be said to win the obligatory set of fight scenes, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, with Godzilla acting as a foil that pushes, or appears to be pushing, the story in motion at various intervals, but doesn't really have any agency outside of what the human characters are guessing at what he's thinking each time he turns up. Suffice to say, Kong really should have been first billed like he was in the original from the 60s. This is very much his movie, a Skull Island sequel with what few new hints of MonsterVerse background we do get is built around fleshing out his fuller giant animal god origin and rebooted status quo in the same way King of the Monsters did for Godzilla, and the visuals ultimately laid out to establish where this Kong is really coming from and what he's meant to be are indeed pretty damn impressively ridiculous. And also, now that we know Wingard is doing Thundercats, after this I really want to ask him how much of this film was borrowed from stuff like the Inhumanoids, because I'm thinking the answer must have been some. In any case, our plot goes like this. Godzilla has started randomly losing his shit and attacking cities again. A big tech company believes they can make an anti-Godzilla weapon by extracting a special energy source from the so-called Hollow Earth underground world from whence the various giant monster titans may have originated, as Kong, who has grown to Godzilla size between the 1970s set Skull Island movie and now, is the only other titan who can potentially stand up to Godzilla because reasons, is capable of friendly communication with humanity because one of the groups of said humans has a sign language speaking deaf child with them, and Coco the gorilla could speak sign, is still the only other famous gorilla fact that everyone in the audience has heard of. They opt to borrow him to use as a guide dog to this energy source, which puts him and the entire mission on Godzilla's radar, seemingly confirming another scientist's theory that the two share an ancient rivalry, the sum total explanation of which is, I have an ancient rivalry theory, and it is that they had a rivalry which is ancient. As you may surmise, apart from Act 2 digressions where the We Like Kong humans actually carry out the Hollow Earth mission, and the We Like Godzilla humans, led by Millie Bobby Brown as her character from King of the Monsters, but now with a totally different personality for some reason, undertake a good movie version of a Shia LaBeouf parts of the Transformers movies mission to prove that the obviously evil big tech company is in fact obviously evil. This is just so much table setting for the succession of very big, extremely well put together, and almost obscenely creative fight scenes where the two main characters go at it. And those who were looking for a more authentically tongue-in-cheek, just admit we're here to watch pro wrestling with big guys approach after King of the Monsters almost certainly burned through whatever sustainability threshold existed for personified allegories of mythological themes that are also anthropomorphic metaphors for climate change clashing in near abstract chaos, will no doubt be satisfied to see that the focus this time is on letting the two basically human-shaped, face-acting capable behemoths brawl like two angry grapplers, throwing each other around, over and into whatever happens to be nearby, while shaking up the actual presentation in fresh ways to contrast classic kick-punch, tail-whip, suplex action. The first big throwdown happens on top of a set of aircraft carriers in the middle of the ocean, while the others play out amidst the skyscrapers of Hong Kong, which offer an update to their own city destruction playbook this time. The buildings don't simply turn to dust the moment a kaiju brushes against them, instead requiring the two giant fighters to climb, scramble, and shove each other around like an oversized version of a Jackie Chan box factory fight scene, or the shipping container location from every Western action movie of the last 20 years. It definitely makes the big set piece look and feel refreshing and different from where the genre has been for so long now visually, even if the physics of it strain a bit of credulity, no matter how enthusiastically I'll otherwise concede that East Asia eats the rest of the world's lunch when it comes to urban infrastructure, nor how much more likely it is influenced by aesthetic needs than anything else. People expected to see King Kong climb buildings, not just knock them over, so the buildings fall over less frequently in this one. And it's largely from minor changes like that making all the difference for the monsters. It really is just so much fun watching them body one another against solid objects, vault off others, take momentum runs for open space, negotiate water displacement, or even just Kong pausing to pop a dislocated shoulder back into place against a tower for the sheer haven't seen that beforeness of it all that the Mr. Discarded opportunities for the human characters feel all the more wanting. What's the point in spending any time establishing clearly mirrored human teams as a support staff for both monsters if they aren't even going to meet up or be aware of each other's existence until the very ending? Why pull Millie Bobby Brown's Godzilla Whisperer back into the story at all if she and the gorilla signing kid aren't going to end up coaching their respective good boys from ringside like trainers at the Pokemon battle to end them all? Again, I'd like your takeaway here to be I had a ton of fun with this, especially that thing that I'm not spoiling when it comes into view. It's good, I was just hoping for more of it, which is a positive criticism. To be frank, the most sincerely negative I can be outside of general structural stuff. There's not enough going on when the monsters aren't involved to justify how much time that we're not with them, the red herring who clearly doesn't seem to have been meant to be one originally, etc., is that this is clearly a Kong movie that was guest featuring Godzilla, and they really should have leaned into that because people really do seem to like this version of Kong, and unlike the Godzilla character, Toho isn't eventually going to take the monkey back or demand more money than Legendary and Warner's want to spend, so you might as well build up the one you actually own. Regardless, it is a blast. There's just great, huge monster action. I loved that when it was happening, so I'm going to say 7 out of 10, but a really, really strong 7, and absolutely worthy of your time, your attention, and your support.